Hello and welcome to another C3 Stingray video. Every time I do a video, I'm always talking about how I'm going to do this complete interior video on this 84 Corvette, the 4+3 I own, and I finally did it. Yes, I took everything out of this car and recarpeted it and reupholstered it, and I made the videos to go with it. So this is a very long process, so I made 5 total videos. Actually there's 6 if you count the headliner video, which is already up. But there's 5 other videos with taking it out, putting in insulation, putting new carpet in, reupholstering the seat. I mean, it's the whole process.
They say it can't be done, that it's just an impossible dream.
But I think it turned out good. The end results was good, so I'm pretty happy with it. I should say I've only done this one other time. I had an 85 Corvette that I did in, and it turned out pretty good. So I went in this feeling pretty confident. But this time I really took everything out of this car. I took out the door panels, I took out the knee bolsters, I took out those side panels on the center console, tore all the carpet off, re-glued it on, and this is pretty involved. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you should subscribe now, like it, go to this playlist that has all these videos together so it's easy to watch, and I guess that's it. Let's start with our first video, and this is just taking everything out of the car. Now we're going to start in the hatch area, taking Phillips screws out of the trim pieces to get those out. You're going to need to remove the struts in order to get the trim pieces completely out on the sides. But the back piece just pulls right out, and now the side piece. There's another piece of trim underneath that side trim. It's a carpet retaining trim. There's 4 screws in that, 4 Phillips screws. You get those out. You're going to need to remove the strut to get the one trim piece off. You really only need to remove the bottom part of the strut. I'm removing the whole strut here. I don't know why. But you need to get at least the bottom piece off. You're going to have 2 kinds of struts. Most struts are like this one. It's got a clip that you pull out and then pop it off. But the one I have on this car has the clip on the inside, and you have to push that in to pop it off. I actually prefer that old clip better, and that's what's on, I'd say, the majority of the 84s anyway. I just use a little pick to kind of get in there and push that in and pull it off. And now I'm removing the pieces of trim, and I'm putting that strut back on because you need to hold that hatch up. Now there's the 4 screws that hold the speaker cover on, and there's 2 screws, well there should be 2 screws that hold that target top holder on, but this one only had 1 screw in it. Now you don't have to do this, you shouldn't have to do this. I had to loosen the halo trim. I had to take a couple screws out to loosen that because the carpet was just tucked in there super tight and I could not get it out. So I took a couple screws out to loosen that up so I could pull that out a little easier. But once you get those out, there's 3 pieces of carpet, and this is the passenger side carpet. Just simply work it out and pull it out from behind that halo trim, and we have 1 piece of the carpet removed. Now let's go to the other side. It's a really bad shot of me pulling the strut off, and I already have that side piece of trim off in this shot. I'm taking out that carpet retainer trim. There's the 4 screws holding that in. And then we'll move to the speaker, another 4 screws. And to that target top holder cover. There's actually 2 screws on this side, and there should be 2 screws in all of them, but now we're to the centerpiece. We have a couple retaining push pins there in the top, and you push that forward underneath that cover, that retractable cover, and then push it forward. And now we're going to take it off of this compartment door. There's a 7mm screw there, and then another Phillips screw holding the lock on. And you just depress the lock, like you push it in to depress that locking mechanism, and then push it out. So you have your I'm taking the Phillips screw out first, then the 7mm screw to press the lock and push it out. Now you just push the carpet forward, and the front of the carpet is velcroed to the front of those compartment doors. Just simply pull that off. And now the carpet's removed from the rear hatch. On the bottom cushion on the front, you have to push that clip down underneath to get that bottom cushion out. That's the clip right there. Sometimes you gotta take a screwdriver or something to kind of pry it down. Sometimes they're in there pretty tight. The back cushion's a little bit tougher to get out. There's 4 clips that hold it on. As you can see, the top one on this one wasn't even connected. There's a rod in the cushion there that slips behind those clips. You got to get one on one side and one on the other side. They're not as easy to get out. They're easier to get out than they are to put in, I can tell you that for sure. There's 2 more clips down in this area. And what I'm going to do here is simply push against the one side until it pops out of that clip, and then the whole thing just pops out. As you can see, there's the rods that go behind the clips, and there's 2 more rods down here. I couldn't even see it, I went past it. There it is right there. And they slip behind. I make a tool. I end up making a tool to help me put these in, and I show that in the last video when I put them back in. So we'll be covering this again in the last video on how to put these in. Now, the seat track covers off. They're held on by just 2 push pins. I don't have any on the passenger side, just on the driver's side. Now I'm taking the nuts off. There's 4 nuts holding the track down. I can't remember if those were, I think they're 13mm, but I'm not positive. We have a power seat, so you gotta leave your power on to move that seat forward so you can get to those back 2 nuts. This whole car, I mean, Phillips screwdriver, 7mm, 10mm, 13mm, and a pretty large Torx. I can't remember the Torx size for the seat belts, but you really don't need that many tools to take this apart. Hooks and pry bars and stuff like that, I mean, help a lot. As you can see, I'm on the passenger side now, taking that apart. It's the same process. This is a manual seat though, so I don't have to worry about that, but there's still a plug-in under there. I didn't show unplugging the power seat on the driver's side. You know, the manual seat, you can just manually push it up with these back 2 nuts. But you will need to unplug that driver's seat, obviously. There's just a plug underneath there. So plug underneath this side too, which I'm going to have to take off. I think I show that. Sorry, I missed a few video spots, but nothing major. Nothing common sense wouldn't tell you. As you can see, there's a plug there. All these plugs are different. You know, some have to be pushed, some have to be, you know, they're all different. You just kind of eyeball them down and figure out how they come apart. Now I want to take these side panels off, but I need to get this cover out of the way because there's a couple 7mm screws on top of that I cannot get off, and for some reason I took the screws out just to take the top cushion part off. Oh, I know why, because I have that cassette holder in there. Heaven forbid I take that cassette holder out of there where I could get to those screws for the hinge. Because, you know, what would I do with my cassettes if I took that out of there? So I took those screws out off the hinge onto the pad, and just to get that out of the way so I could have access to those 7mm screws up on top. There's 2 on each side. And I'm continuing to remove these panels here. You gotta watch, because these old panels, these old trim pieces are pretty brittle and they break really easy. These already have a lot of cracks and broken pieces off of them from other people taking them out. But they have to get out of the way so you can, because that carpet on those side panels goes up underneath that piece there. So it does need to be removed, or at least pushed up out of the way so you can get those side panels off. And here I am removing those 7mm screws on the top of the side panel. Now I'm taking, kind of jump around here a little bit, but I'm taking out that back piece of carpet, which we already taken everything out. It kind of goes over the hump there. So you just need to pull that out, kind of get that out of the way. Now I'm going to take this other side piece off around the door. It's missing a screw in the front. You really need a stubby screwdriver to get that front screw out, and I guess whoever took this out last didn't have their stubby screwdriver, so they didn't bother putting it back in. But it's once again more Phillips screws. You kind of have to work that loose. It's on there pretty tight, but you need that out of the way also to access that carpet. Now I'm taking, kind of ripping out that carpet there. Really isn't much else holding that carpet, because once the seat track's out of the way and that side panel's out of the way, you can get it out pretty easy. Now we're taking out that other little trim piece underneath the dash there. I guess you need to decide whether you're going to want to replace this carpet underneath here. If you don't need to, you probably won't want to, because this is kind of a pill to get out. This knee bolster here, it has some small screws holding it underneath, but there's 4 nuts that are up under the dash that you got to get that out of there, and I can tell you now it's not an easy task. So if you do not need to change this carpet, you think, oh, this carpet's pretty good, I'd leave it. Actually, my carpet wasn't that bad and I should have left it. Here's a shot from underneath showing you those 4 nuts. You can't even see that top nuts behind those wires there, but they're not, the bottom 2 are, you can access lying on the floor. As you can see here, I'm lying on the floor with I believe I was using a ratchet wrench on those to get those out, but you know, you got a lot of dust and crap and other garbage falling in your face while you're doing it. Now for the top ones, the easiest way I know to do it is to take this panel out. As I said, I probably didn't even need to change that. Mine wasn't that bad, but I wanted to show everything, taking everything out and replacing it for this video. So I went ahead and took it out. There's only 2 screws that hold that, 2 screws and a couple clips that hold that dash panel in, unless you have speakers hooked up, which I did not. If you have speakers, you're going to disconnect those too. But as you can see from the top, I'm looking through the windshield down, and you can see those top 2 nuts that I got to get to. Now I ordered the thing on Amazon. There are 2 extensions that they bend. I mean, they're flexible socket extension bars, and they worked really good for this. You can't put a lot of pressure on those, but I was able to use them. I got that in there. You can look through the windshield, kind of see where you're going, and you can bend it and get that on there, and then it's just a matter of ratcheting away until you can get it out. And that's what I'm doing here. Once you get on there, you just keep ratcheting until you get it out. Now I got that one out fairly easy. This one was a little more difficult, because as I said, you got to look through the windshield, and then once you're sitting on the other side trying to ratchet, you can't really see anything, so you just kind of have to do it by feel, which is, I always say that in every video, you got to be able to feel what you're doing here. And look, we got the knee bolster out on the passenger side. Hallelujah freaking Luya. It's quite a pill to get out of there, but you can get it out. Here I'm showing you, I had to take that side fuse box cover off to kind of see what I was doing there. Okay, I'm back to the side panel again. I'm going to rip the rest of that carpet off. As you can see, I'm going through a lot of different phases of clothes here. I've got coats on. I mean, I did this like at the end of the winter into spring, so I'm wearing a lot of various different clothes. But as you saw, we got that side panel out with those few screws that were holding that in. Now I'm back to the driver's side, taking that piece out. On this side, you also have the cover for the parking brake. So you're going to take that out, and I have a push pin here also on this side. You had to move that parking brake up to get it out. I hate these parking brakes. You have to pull them up to engage them, and you have to pull them up again to disengage them, but they're always down. It's a poor design. I really don't like them. So with that trim piece out of the way, I can now pull the carpet out. This side's not as tough as the other side because you can see there's 2 bolts you can actually get to. With an extension, you need to take those 2 bolts out. Once again, if you don't need to change that carpet, which really I didn't need to, but as I said, I was wanting to show taking everything out of here, so I went ahead and removed it. And there was another trim piece underneath there with a couple Phillips screws. And there were a couple screws in the front that I missed. That's out of there now. Now we can pull that side panel off again. As you can see, the carpet was laying on the other side. This video is not, I kind of jumped around a lot. I tried to put it together in some sort of a progression, but I kind of took it apart, bouncing all over the place. Now we have this lock. This cover on this lock just pops out. You can just pull that right out, and then there's a little nut there. A little screw there. I believe once again it's a 7mm. It might be a little bigger. It might have been a 1/4 inch. I can't remember. But once that comes off, that arm comes out of the way, and then you can pull that out. And that's what I would say. Another thing, you should be, if you want to be smart, because you always think when you're taking stuff apart, oh yeah, I'll remember where that goes. You should bag your screws and stuff and put it with whatever part you take it out. Because once you go to put it back together, it's way easier than trying to hunt through this pile of screws and nuts you have. As you can see, here's more Phillips screws to take out to get this door panel out of the way. Once again, what's that decision? Do you want to replace this carpet, or do you want to leave it? If you can leave it, I'd suggest leaving it, because this is just one more pain that you have to deal with. But if you're wanting to change everything, especially if you're changing colors, you're going to have to take this apart. I mean, this isn't really bad, but first thing, I popped off that lock cover. Those pop right off, and then I'm working my way around with all the Phillips screws. Hopefully your screws come out easily. Sometimes those are known to rust because they get exposed to weather sometimes, and they just start rusting in these old cars. I've got the screws out all the way around, and there's 2 screws in that handle, that grip in the handle, and the 4 screws around the speaker cover. Once you get all those screws out, you can push up and pop that off there. You just need to unplug things. You have the light. I don't know why I'm having such trouble popping that loose, but you just got to pry it up a little bit and pull it off. Now there's a wire going to the rear hatch. And then you have the plug going into the power door lock underneath. That just unplugs, and I had some issues with this. It kind of pulled out. But it simply just unplugs. You need to work a screwdriver or something behind it and just get it to unplug. Obviously you need to have your power off while you're doing all this. You don't want to be doing this with power. You need to disconnect your battery before messing with something like that. As you can see, it pulled out, and then I worked it loose and unplugged it. I don't show the driver's side because it's basically the same as the passenger side, so that should get everything that you need to see about taking all the carpet out of your car. I mean, completely. This is it without any carpet in it. Well, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this 5-part series. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit that like button. And if you need any new or used C3, C4, C5 Corvette parts, go to my website at c3stingray.com. And in the next episode, we're going to take all that insulation out and put in new sound deadening heat shield material underneath that carpet before we put the carpet in. So you want to check that out, and that's in part 2, and it will continue on until we get this completely finished. So I guess that's it. I'll see you on the road.
They say it can't be done, that it's just an impossible dream.